This is a Villa Rajendra from Government Degree College, Mantani, District Pedagogy, lecturer in English. Today, I would like to discuss about the short story, The Touch, written by ABBURI Chayadevi. And this is one of the a wonderful short story written by ABBURI Chayadevi, who is a famous Telugu writer. And as we want, if you want to know about her, simply there are some simple things that we have to understand about the old age, about our old age and our customs. Abul Chaya Devi was a very well-known Telugu fiction writer. She was born in the year 1933, October 13 in Rajahmundry, Andhra Pradesh. She won Sahitya Akademi Award in Telugu 2005 for Tanamargam, the collection of short stories. And most of her stories deals with the problems of women who faces the kinds of discrimination and in this patriarchal society. She most of her stories deals with patriarchal society and the discrimination of women in our society. She married Aburi Vijendra, Varadarajeshwar Rao, who came from the family of literatures, and she had worked as a librarian for Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, took voluntary retirement from there, and settled down in Hyderabad. So uh, she all the time explains about the discrimination of women in the society in olden days. And it is quite well known that the Indian parents are greatly obsessed with having a male child in their family. And nowadays also we can observe that there is so much appreciation about the male child in their family, and most of the times they look forward for only male child only. And it is an archaic cultural perception that a male child is one who perpetuates the family line, and as well as the one who performs the last rites for the parents who has to free from their earthly bonds. And but daughters, on the other hand, love and respect the parents and call for the attention as much as soon. We can learn from the following story as a sentimental daughter who called for the assured and affectionate touch that we are what we can see the sparsha of her signs since from her childhood always felt intimidated by the imposing presence. Ironically, it is a octogenarian father who calls for the touch of his daughter at the end. And the story reveals the archaic, that means archaic cultural perceptions of the male child, a woman who has been longing for the love of her father, love of her father from childhood, and believes that male child can perform the last rite of the parents to free from their earthly bonds. This is what we can try to understand about the story. And it's all working. We can easily say that most probably this story begins with a simple lines. Uh, a woman enters into the house of her parents, and here there is situation is in a different way. Why? Because the father who has uh, lied on a bed, and who is actually looking for the her who lost her son recently, and he's uh, in a deep sorrow that he has to come out from her loss of her son. But what it may be, loss of his son, and but what it may be here, we can easily understand that he represents. He would like to express his love towards her daughter, and that should be longing for so many years. When I arrived, I found father lying on the string cot facing the wall. I had felt my slippers outside. I had left my slippers outside on the threshold, so my footstep does not give away my presence. I went right onto the cart and asked her, "Are you asleep?" So the situation we had to understand that the story begins with the incident of losing his a male child in a house, and father was laid on a bed, and he was deeply in sorrows. And then we can understand that the lady who is his daughter and enters into the house, and she explains about it's you know that the short story begins with the first person narration, and the first person narration means I is always represented as a first person narration. And here we come to know that she went to her father's house, and there she can found that her father was laid on a string cot, and facing to the wall and not to the doorsteps, towards the door. And she slowly comes to went to the house, and she drops her slippers outside the house, and she moves on into the house. And even her father did not notice her because of making she doesn't made any noise. So then went to the right of the cot and asked her, "Are you asleep?" And she inquired about whether he is in a sleep, or whether he is in a sleep, or looking for something else. And he moves around, and he says that, "Who is it?" As as he turned his side, "It's I," replied. She said, I means she can easily wanted to say that I am your daughter, and I came here for to see you. And come, sit here, he said, and continuing lying and stretched out. And when he heard me pulling the steel chair and preparing to sit down, he asked when, "Why did you want to sit so far away? Come and sit here close to me." And he sat up and took me space for me, uh, make a space for me, patting the place on the cart on the next side next to him. So here we can see the situation, and the father, he wake up, and he said that, "Who is here?" He asked it, "Who is it? Who is it?" Then the woman replied that, "It's I." Then, "Come sit here." He said that, "Come sit here," and continuing his and he got up and sat on his cot, and asking the woman to sit beside him. But whatever it may be, the woman is really not showed any interest on this particular situation, because she never touched her father with affectionate touch, and she never had sat before beside him also. Then we come to know that she tried to pull a chair, steel chair, and to sit down there, to sit down on the chair. But whatever may be, and the father again said that, "Why don't you want to sit so far away? Why don't you want to sit so far away? Why don't you sit so far away? Come here and come and sit beside me." He explained about it, and then whatever may be, he was making some of the space to sit this woman, and the woman is daughter of this old man who recently lost her male child. And grabbing the father's crotchet on me, I sat on the edge of the cot. So, what it may be, she is went very close to the father, and she had sat down the cot, and she sat down on the cot of the edge, and dropping her father and me on my back. Then he felt the place to the next to him, and on the cot, and said that, "Sit comfortably, Amma." And when she used to sit on the edge of the cart, he explains that, he says that, "Try to sit properly, Emma, and try to sit comfortably." And he is making some more space to sit to this woman. And he parted on the back of her daughter for just like a consolation. And making her affectionate love towards the women. And I shifted a little and making myself comfortable. Then she shifted a little because she sat on the edge of the cart. Then she made herself comfortable. Then he grabbed at the air and in front of him and gripped my hand. He grabbed the air in front of him and gripped in my hand and held it smoothly both his and said that I have been looking forward for your visit and is everyone all right? So what it may be, he again once again showing his affectionate love towards his daughter. Then he takes her daughter's hands in his hand and grabbing smoothly and grabbing affectionately and asking, inquiring about her wellness and her family details in the way. I have been looking forward to visit you. That means he is eagerly waiting for the visit of her daughter. But what it may be, he that means the father is interested to visit a daughter, and is everything all right? He inquired in a beautiful manner, and yes, I said softly. The woman said softly, yes. He didn't say anything else and silently stroked my hand. So after taking her hands into his hands and simply he stroked on her hands, showing his affectionate love and saying anything else. That means without saying anything else, he showed his love and making it as a part of affectionate touch. Once, as a teenager, he had to go somewhere in a rickshaw, and though the rickshaw was spacious, I sat huddled at the sofa end. So she used to remember her life, past life, in one of the incident as a teenager. This lady, as a teenager, had that means happened to go on a rickshaw with her father, and at that time she sat. That means the rickshaw was so spacious. Even though it is so spacious, she sat at the edge of the rickshaw and felt that very happy about it. That why? Because she that means this is what we can try to understand the old rituals and customs. And women is placed in a distance in a way of discipline, in a way of ritual, in a way of everything. It's in a way of orthodox family, like that. So whenever she used to when she used to sit at the edge of the rickshaw, the father he didn't say anything else about the incident, and she doesn't he did not ask her to sit closely and so on that. So sit properly, amma, and if you fall off, the father had said. Then that we come to know the reality again. And here this thing happens he asked her to sit properly. If you sit at the edge of the cart, you can fall down. Then and said that sit properly, amma, and if you sit on the edge of the cart, you can definitely fall down. So be careful about that and sit properly. And I had hesitated and moved just an inch closer to him. So, but it maybe she was hesitated because all the time from her childhood to from this age, she was kept away from her father's distance, kept away from her father in the name of rituals, in the name of discipline, in the name of our orthodox way of life. So what it may be, she moved very close to her father. Just there is no distance between them, and it's just like a inch, just like a inch is the distance between them. And From the time I learnt my first letters of the alphabet, father had kept me at a distance. She is explaining that from her childhood, even though while she was trying to learn her alphabet from the school age, the father kept her in the name of distance, kept her in the name of discipline, kept her in the name of this distance, the name of discipline, and because of muddy and his orthodox way of life. Because of muddy is also that means in olden days we come to know that in olden days also and nowadays also we can see that the people who are not freshed up with their bathing, and they are kept away in the name of muddy. So, in the name of discipline and in the name of body and in the name of orthodox way of life, she was kept away from her childhood. I never had to courage to touch him. That means she never had courage to touch her father, and I had always felt that he was in the state of ritual purity. So he all the time he was explaining about her situation in the name of rituality and in the name of purity. So here we come to know that the thing here that is happening here. She was remembering her olden days about how her father was treated her son, her daughter, his daughter. Then yes, I was used to slipping into my cocoon. That means that she has to go with her own way of life, like her own way of playing games, her own way of like playing with only girls and playing with her own way of different life. She was in a different world, and so how could I ever think of sitting close to him in the rickshaw and our bodies touching right now? That means in this way, how can she sit in close in close sitting close to him in the rickshaw? It's not possible because she is not able to follow um her father properly, and whatever may be, her father is also not shown any affectionate love towards her child, his child. So here we come to know that when the children return from the school, if you embrace embrace them lovingly and casually, question them that they have open up with their chirp and like happy birds. Instead of they are greeted harshly at the threshold with how much you did you score in your mass, and have you brought any your report card, and if they were fight and I died may such a death over some 20 years, and I still haven't got over the difference of their they created diffidence they created. So here it's a normal way of life that we can understand. We can say that people, the children who are really returning uh, returning in the evening from school, simply they need some of the love and affectionate touch, like casual questions, like taking giving a hug, and making affectionate inquiries, and making how they their life, their time in the school. If they inquire like this, they feel very affectionate and they feel very happy about the incidences. And in this way, we can simply chip the like happy birds. So we have to make them happy in the way of making very casual questions, like how they spend their life, the time in the school and all that. And if they are greeted harshly about the threshold, like the questions, how did you score in the mass, and have you brought your report card, and like that, these are the questions that can embrace the people, that embrace the children, and simply they don't want to show their affectionate love towards the father and mother, and even others also. They behave in a different way. So like that. Here we have to go through with the casual questions and having some of the affectionate touch, and simply they feel very happy, and they can make their life beautiful. And in this way, if you ask these questions like what about your report card, what about your math score, what about your results, and it's all making some of the difference between the normal child as a child of Orthodox family. And has a so she got so much of experience about this one, because she was all the time asked and greeted harshly while she was returning from the school, and she died with so many deaths. She was dead with such so many deaths, and from over some 20 years. From some 20 years, she had been ill-treated, and she was not treated with love, and she was treated just like a machine, and making good scores and making good, mm, what we can say, making good, that means education, and she was treated like that. And still I still haven't got over the difference of their created. That means how the different difference we have to be created is still she doesn't know about the incidences. And in this way, father is going to ask all the questions and inquiries about her education and marks and the progress card and report that they should be. They don't think that the father and father loves to pay the children very much. And father is right now over 80 now, and the past stage of recovering his sight, even if his eyes were to be operated upon, and he is not able to see properly because of his age. And the father of this woman was over 80 right now, and the past stage of recovering his sight, even uh, if if his eyes were operated upon, so then we come to know that he is not able to see people properly, and because of his age, though his otherwise he is healthy right now, not except her eyes, he is right now healthy. His poor eyesight was made him so weak, and he spent his last 2 years in bed. So what it may be, he was lost his sight properly, and he was spent his days last 2 years in bed, and because of his poor eyesight. And my husband and I had come to town on hearing that my mother-in-law was not well. To spend time with her, I managed to visit my parents once in a while, as they lived in the same town. On such visits, I spent about half an hour chatting with father. So here we come to know that how she visited her father's house, that means her parents' house. Simply, we can understand that her husband, who had come to the town on hearing of her mother-in-law, that means the woman's mother-in-law was not well. On the hearing the news of her father, her husband, that means her husband's mother was not well. She and her husband used to spend some time with her, and even though in this precious time, she used to manage her parents' house once in a while, as they are also in the same town. So on such visits, I spend about half an hour on chatting with her father. That means she had some time to spend spend almost 30 minutes with her father, and chanting with him. And so, to sit closer to father to revive the faint of memory of a childhood. And when he took my hand in his hand, stroked it with love, and longing had felt me in such child as a stress flooded in my inner beings, and tears welled in my eyes. I choked and I could not speak. And if you understand that I had heen was long for this loving touch. So now we come to know that when she used to sit close to the father, and to revive the faint of memory of childhood, and she can remember her childhood. When she took her my hand, when the father took her hand, into his hamster and stroked with love, and the longing of her felt as a child, a touch of the forehead my inner beings, and tears well in my eyes. So she said that she had been longing for love. She had been longing for the love of the merry touch of her father from childhood, and now it happens. Like it happens, and she feels very sad, and she feels very affectionate love about her father, and she never felt the feeling of tears in her eyes because her father doesn't show any affectionate love all these days. And even though at this time, when he was showing his affectionate love, and when he took her hands into his hands and stroking with love, she felt the merry touch of his father with affectionate love. His rolled tears from her eyes, and I choked. I couldn't speak. She is not able to speak because her heart felt very sad because she is all the time she has been longing for the love, and when we had to understand that she had been longing for the love and the loving touch, and perhaps all the love and affectionate had been followed between us in letters and evaporated in the sharp intense look whenever we come to face. And even in early childhood, I used to avoid him to escape his piercing glance that had hurt like a scorching sun rays. Now, though, I knew that they had been extinguished. Why was I still unable to feed free with him? And perhaps all his love and affectionate that had flowed between us in letters and evaporated with intense look whenever he when we come face to face. That means in her childhood also, even though her childhood she whenever it happens to see her father in a face to face, she used try to she all the time try to escape from her father, and if there is any situations to happen when there is any situation to see her father face to face, she doesn't show her face to her father. Why? Because she feels like that piercing glance that hurts like a scorching sun rays of her father. Then what it may be, her childhood went on like that, and now, though I knew that they had been extinguished with this, I was still unable to feel and free with him. And from that incidences, from that instances, we come to know that she never feel free with him, and she cannot express her love and feelings and happiness towards to her father. The first time I visited him in his illness, I noticed bugs on the car, and I had picked up a couple of them and silently crushed them under the foot. So whenever she visited her father's first illness, and she had noticed some of the one of the bug on the cart and picked a couple of them, and that means she picked a couple of the bugs, and simply silently she crushed the bugs with her foot. And later, my husband noticed a bhagwan on our bed and being upset. And later, there is an incident that he had observed on a bug on her bed, on their bed, and he was obsessed with that. And I told him that it had probably crept into my clothes when I had sat down my father's bed. So she said that I have noticed these bugs on my father's cart, and now I'm not able to say that one of the bug had went into my clothes, and then it comes like that. As I was leaving today to visit my father's, my husband cautioned me not to sit under my father's bed, but it pulled like a chair, pulled up a chair and sit a little away. So her husband advised her to not sit on the bed of the father. Why? Because if you sit on your father's bed, you must have that means you can come up with bugs to our house. So try to sit and try to pull a chair and try to sit on chair and don't try to sit on uh, your father's bed. It is the caution that was given by her husband. As I was leaving the day to visit my father, and he was cautioned me, and as I pulled my chair away, father asked me to sit to close him, and how could I not if he was not happy? And until I was almost leaning against him and had his hands in mine. So, what it may be, when she tried to pull up a chair, and her father asked her to sit closer on the bed, and how had she has to decide whether she has to decide to go for her father's voice or whether she has to go for her husband's caution. So, what it may be, she moved towards her father's affectionate love, and he was leaning against him and had his hands and mine. Father had longed for sons all his life, but was now left with only his daughters. So we come to know that she used to explain about how fathers are really longed for her sons in the entire life. But some extent, we can say that the right now she had only the times like a daughter. At the end of his life, he had all lost his grown son and perpetuate of his name. That means who is a perpetuator of his name, even though we can say that he's just like an ancestor who grows the family trees as a son. And what it may be, at the end he lost his son and who perpetuate his name. Perhaps that is what the destiny means when my brother died. Perhaps what we can say that destiny that can send while her brother was died, she can understand. And I had to hesitate to face my father. Sometimes unknown feeling of guilt had felt me back. So she felt guilt about the incident, about this particular incident, why she had been lost her life. And I felt like taking him in my arms and reassuring him that saying, "Don't worry, I am here." But I hesitated to even to touch him. That's what how I had been raised. That means she has raised as a lady, as a woman, as a male, as a female child, like in a in the name of discipline, she was kept in a strict way of life. So even though when father had lost his son, and the woman, that means this one particular woman, daughter, she wanted to say something, and she feel guilt about his life. That means about his life, and even she felt like uh, taking her father's hands into her hand and making and reassuring himself that don't worry, father, I am here. I am here. I am I am your daughter. I am here. I will take care of you. But even she has not done like that, because she instead to touch her father, and that what how she was raised by her father. After I chatted with him for a while, he asked me to clip his nails. And what it may be, when they are chatted each other, and father asked her daughter to chip his nails, and asking mother to do it would be as useless as the uh, monitor weeping on the shoulder of the drum. And his brother was not live to do it, and were his children around. So what it may be, father asked about chipping his nails, and mother normally mother do all these things, and it's a useless motor of weeping on the shoulder on the drum. That means uh, when father lost his child, his son, everybody weeps about the incident. It's a very sad situation to a father, and his brother was not allowed to do like chipping his nails. Now whatever it may be, it's time for her to chipping her nails. and children was not around him, and not even we can understand that he could ask my sister-in-law, but perhaps he wanted me to do so something for him. I was elated and did the job carefully. And she's that means the father he is not able to do. That means he is not able to ask his daughter-in-law to do that. Why? Because she was a daughter-in-law, and she's also kept. That means she was also kept in the name of discipline in this particular house. So what it may be, the daughter who has done this job like chipping nails carefully. Perhaps father was feeling depressed. He was in a deep depression because of losing his son, and he stroked my hand and said that it would be so nice if you are moved into this town, and I could stay with you. He could. I looked at him helplessly, a look that could not see, and I could not reassure him with words either. That means perhaps what it may be, father was in a deep depression, and as he was stroking and he is showing his affectionate love on her daughter, and asked her to move into this town. If you move in this town, I could stay with you, and he said that. But what it may be, it's she's not able to take a decision, and she is not able to say any words towards his father about this situation, simply because she has to obey her husband's words, and even he cannot say anything, and she cannot reassure his. Uh, she assured her father, and father didn't speak anything again, and it was a silent. And as he stroked my hand, at the moment, my education, my job, and everything else appeared vain and superficial. I thought for a while before leaving. So what it may be, right now she can feel the love and the touch of her father, as she feels like that. He stroked uh, my hand again and again. At this moment, that means at that moment, at that particular moment, she thinks that her education and her job and everything was felt in a vain and superficial, and just because of longing for her father's love. As I returned in the rickshaw, and father's tender touch returned me, haunted me, and tears welled in my eyes and blurred with my view on the road. As she was moving on the rickshaw, again she is remembering about her father's merry touch of affectionate love, and she is moving on. And while she was moving on, and she was thinking about her father's affectionate love, she simply feel that she was very vain, and her eyes was filled with blood, with eyes rolled, and simply she was observing a she is observing on the road. It's a story presented by the ABBURI CHAYADEVI in a ironical way that male-dominated society in the patriarchal society, males are treated how males are treated, and females are treated. Writer criticizes the society for mistreating the women in a way of life, and from this we are to think that I would like to conclude my session. Thank you.